want to go over the HyperShade in Maya just to give you an idea how you can start to add textures and colors to your model. So you can access the HyperShade by going into the Windows menu and going down into Rendering Editors and click on HyperShade. And you can see I already gave it a hotkey, Control T, to make it easier. Now when this window opens up, there's a lot of stuff going on, and my screen space is limited here, so it's going to get a little crowded. So I'm going to fix this real quick. I'm going to scale some of these windows down. So this is the breakup of what you see in the HyperShade. In the upper left-hand corner are views of the shaders that are the default shaders in Maya. These are the defaults. So right now they're very big. These icons are very big. So I'm going to scale them down to make them smaller. Up in the menu, the icons in the second row here, you can control the size. So I'm going to click on this very small, it's a circle in a box, blue circle in a box icon. That's going to make them a little bit smaller. Well, maybe I need them a little bit bigger, so I'm going to click the next one over. So that gives us more space up in this upper top left section. Now to the side over here, on the left hand side, this is basically where I can pull and create all of my different shaders. And then in the center is where you can start to create different shader recipes. And what I mean by recipes is you can start to combine these different shaders and utilities to create a variety of different textures and materials for your model. And then on the right hand side is a material viewer that will let you see the material, and then in the lower right hand corner is a property editor which will let you edit the properties. So I'm going to basically start off by just grabbing a Lambert shader, and to do that I'm going to go into this left hand menu and click on Maya, and what you have here are some of the favorites that Maya gives you by default. So these are some of the more popular, commonly used materials. And I'm going to grab this Lambert and basically just click on it, and you see in this center view now is a view of the nodes that make up that Lambert shader. So these are the two different sets of attributes that are used to create the Lambert. Now you can zoom in and zoom out like you can with your normal Maya navigation hotkeys. So I'm just using the scroll wheel on my mouse, but you can also hit Alt and use the right mouse button to zoom in and zoom out to get a clearer view of some of these attributes. And then you see here is in my upper right hand corner, the material viewer is a representation. So it's basically just a plain gray colored shader, and you can see how the light is hitting this, and I can rotate around this material view by hitting Alt and my left mouse key. Now you can see the attributes that make up this Lambert right here, and it gives it a name by default as well. So since I already have a Lambert in this upper materials view up here, that's called Lambert 1. This is called Lambert 2. If I created a third one, it would be called Lambert 3. And if I click on these different attributes, here you'll see in this Lambert 2, you can see how this attribute property editor will pop up. I'm going to make that bigger. And this is where I can change my color. Now you'll notice here it says transparency. It doesn't really match up. So transparency is down below. Ambient color. The order is different, so you're just going to have to look in your property editor and just see where these things fall. These windows are adjustable too, so I can rearrange this HyperShade window however I want. So I'm just going to put that property editor back window below the material viewer. And now I'm going to change my color. So basically I just have to double click and this color window pops up. And here's where I can change my color. So let's say I'm going to change it to this lime green, this bright lime green. Once you change the color, you hit done, and you're all set. So let's kind of go through these. Transparency is just going to give you a level of opacity that you can change. And it's a grayscale value that I'm changing. So I'm just moving the slider here. So white is fully transparent, black is opaque. Ambient color is the color that the object's giving off. So it's a way to think of it as like the object emitting a color. So raising that up is going to make the shader more saturated and brighter. Incandescence is more of a glow. So that's going to brighten up the shader, make it whiter as I drag the slider to the right. And diffuses can be considered the light that is hitting the object and the object's producing the object's normal color. So if I bring that down all the way, it basically takes all the color away from the object. So if I want to apply this color to my model, so I have this model here, I'm going to make a little bit of space. You can do it several different ways. So I can middle mouse click the Lambert here that I've been playing with and drag and drop it on the plane. So I'm just middle mouse clicking it from this material window in the HyperShade, keeping that middle mouse key down, hovering over the model here and letting go, and now it's green. I can select the model in Maya, right mouse click, and go all the way down to this marking menu and go to assign existing and assign that existing material. That's another way to do it. Or I can select the model in Maya and right mouse click on the Lambert and say assign material to selection in the marking menu that pops up in the HyperShade. And that's the third way to do it. So you see there's multiple ways to do this. And then once I go back to that Lambert in the HyperShade, if I start to play with any of the attributes, here I'm going to change the color. It's already applied to the model, so the color on that model is going to naturally change as well. So that's how you can quickly change the color there. So that's basically using HyperShade to change a color. There's a lot of information here in this HyperShade window. So if you go into this left side menu, this is basically giving you all of your different shaders. So you have two sections. Well, you have three sections. You have favorites, which is what we just went into. Then you have this Maya section, which gives you all the different elements that make up a shader. So you have different textures, utilities, lights, um, all sorts of things. And then you can go into this next section called Arnold, and this is for the Arnold renderer, which is now by default part of Maya 2018. So this is where you start to combine things to get different shader recipes. So for example, I can go into 2D textures, and I'm going to grab this checker. So once I click on checker here, I get this checker texture node popping up in the main window here, and I have two attributes on this checker: an out alpha and an out color. So what you can do with this is you can plug in these inputs and outputs to connect these different shaders together. So I'm just gonna drag this out color on the color, and once I do that, you see that my shader now has a checker pattern on it. So if I go back into my perspective view in Maya, you see that that green color went away. Well, the reason is because now I have a texture. By default, I don't have textures turned on in my viewer, but if I click on this little icon here, it's like a little grid pattern. It's very tiny. It's in this perspective window on top. Now I see that texture pattern. So that's all I need to do. And so here, back in the HyperShade, the two different elements here that I've added into this window, the original Lambert and the checker, you can kind of call this a shader recipe. So I could keep on adding things here. I could add maybe some different colors to the checker, or I could maybe add a different type of texture and connect it to transparency. If you want to see more of the attributes on these different nodes, you can click in the upper right hand corner here. You have these three like horizontal rounded rectangles. Just click on these, and this will open up that node a little bit and give you more attributes. So now you see I have a color 1 and a color 2 on this checker. So I can go into this color 1, color 2, which is now here in my attribute editor, and change one of the checker colors. So I'm going to change, let's say, that to pink, and color 2 I'll change to maybe a darker green. Hit done, and now if I look at these three planes, you can see how those how that material has updated on this model here.